Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. From Shakespeare, enjoyed no sooner, but despised straight, past reason, past reason, what is that word?
It's hunted.
Past reason hunted, and no sooner had, but past reason hated. As a swallowed bait.
Yeah, that's right.
On purpose laid to make the taker mad. This is Shakespeare's description of Maya. This is Shakespeare's description of Maya. And it's powerful. It's accurate. And the Swami says, it follows, therefore, that when the samskaras have been rooted out and destroyed, as they must before the state of perfect yoga is achieved. So let's just stop and consider this. The samskaras have to be rooted out and destroyed. Well, another way of saying this is that they just must be ignored. If you don't give them your attention, if you decide firmly and without qualification, these aspects, these baits of Maya simply do not deserve my attention, and you ignore them. If you don't water them with your attention, if you ignore them, they will wilt and become dormant. The destruction, the becoming like burnt seeds, happens when you do achieve samadhi. Now, it needn't be nirvikalpa samadhi. It can be savikalpa samadhi. The samadhi within time, space, and causation. But they must be dormant before the state of perfect yoga is achieved. There will no longer be any urge toward rebirth. What produces the urge to rebirth? Lingering desires, a desire to take the bait. So if you have decided, I'll no longer take the bait, there will no longer be any urge toward rebirth. He who achieves yoga is said to be liberated. When his present life ends, he will be united with the Atman forever. Now, we have no idea, and we cannot say in words, what it means to be united with the Atman. We can get some sense of it while we're still embodied by learning to be in that seat that is the face of the Atman, which is the witness. And it is from that witness seat that we can ignore the bait, the samskaras. They arise before us. We say, I see you. Furthermore, you can even say, I love you because you are Mother herself. But I will not cooperate. This is a way of being as the Atman and with the Atman. What Sri Krishna says in the Gita, it is to obey the Atman. And it is the joy of the yogi, he says, to obey the Atman rather than obey Prakriti or Maya. Is there any comment or question from anyone about any of that that's been presented so far? Because this is powerful stuff. This is the stuff of liberation, as the Swami said. All right. However, the achievement of perfect yoga does not necessarily mean the immediate end of mortal life. Saints have reached the supreme spiritual experience and continue to live on for many years. And of course, if you read the book Love Poems from God, you read the testimony of realized souls, real saints, 12 of them, that lived on for years after having achieved this perfect yoga. And they're from several of the different great world traditions, from Sanatana Dharma, from Sufism, from Roman Catholicism. There's one more, and I'm not thinking of it. Oh, just straight Islam. So it doesn't mean being Jivan Mukta doesn't necessarily mean dying immediately. You can live on for many years. They have continued to think, speak, and act on the plane of external phenomena, but with a difference. The thoughts, words, and actions of a liberated man are said to be like burnt seeds. That is to say, they are no longer fertile. They cannot bring forth any more samskaras. They cannot create any new addiction or bondage. In other words, they are beyond karma. They have transcended the gunas. They're no longer prisoners of the gunas. They are actually masters of the gunas. And so they cannot bring forth any more samskaras. They cannot create any new addiction or bondage. In Sanskrit, or a mental or physical act is called a karma. Karma is also the word used to describe the consequences of this act. and hence to describe what we call our fate, since our fate is nothing but the sum of the consequences of our past actions in this and previous lives. After a man has achieved liberation in yoga, his acts will cease to produce karmas. The remainder of this earthly life will be governed only by the karmas which were already in existence before his liberation. And if you want to hear a very thorough and very compassionate description of this state, read the last 2 chapters of Adi Shankaracharya's Vivekachudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination. He talks about this state that the Swami is describing. He is like an actor on the last night of a play. He knows that this play will never be performed again, no matter how well he does his part, no matter whether the audience boos or applauds. He has nothing to gain or lose by his performance. Nevertheless, he must play it through to the end until the final curtain falls and he can go home. So again, anything at all from anyone about this remarkable statement about what it is that happens after you achieve the state of Jivan Mukta, freedom while still alive, liberation while still embodied. Any comments or questions about it? Speaking of the actions of one who has achieved liberation, Shankara tells us such actions are performed, as it were, from memory. They are like the remembered actions of a dream. Such actions are performed, as it were, from memory. They are like the remembered actions of a dream. So that's the end of the discussion by the Swami of that sutra. Again, anything that needs to be discussed so that there is real clarity for us to move on to the next sutra.
Shankara,
Yes.
this
Bala.
reminds me of the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. He talks about this very vividly. In an ashram, there was one realized master who was walking, and he was abused by one of the people, and he felt unconscious. So the rest of the shishyas came and took him home and nursed him, and he realized his consciousness back. And then one of the sishya was asking him, "Do you remember me?" And the answer the Guru gave is, the same hand that beat me and is the same hand that is serving me. That's
Yes.
the realization.
Yes. This is the realization of the oneness behind the appearance. Very difficult for us to conceive of. There are about 12, 14 of us here, according to the images on the screen. there appear to be 14 of us. And yet, all of the scriptures tell us one, only one. So that's why when we talk here about studying the art of spirituality together, there's such value placed on each one of you, because that which is, the truth of that which is, arises in you. So whatever you have to say, or even if you don't say anything, there is that powerful current of truth flowing. And again, I say, if you want to know what I'm talking about, the background of why I'm saying this, read Swami Vivekananda's The Powers of the Mind. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Bala. All right. Sutra 19 from chapter 1. When such concentration is not accompanied by non-attachment, and ignorance therefore remains, the aspirant will reach the state of the disincarnate gods, or become merged in the forces of nature. Now, this is one of the more powerful statements in all of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It describes something that will happen to someone who achieves concentration, but not detachment or non-attachment. And this is regarded, as you'll see, by Patanjali and by the Swami in his commentary, as a somewhat perilous situation, because it can lead to a long detour away from what was apparently the aspiration of God realization or self-realization. When such concentration is not accompanied by non-attachment, and ignorance therefore remains, the aspirant will reach the state of the disincarnate gods, or become merged in the forces of nature. Concentration without non-attachment cannot bring liberation. Notice that the Swami's first comment, his first commentary on this, is just a flat-out, unqualified statement. Concentration without non-attachment cannot bring liberation. However hard we may struggle, we can only be rewarded in accordance with our desires. If we really want liberation and work hard enough for it, we shall get it. But if we really want power and pleasure, we can get them instead. But if we really want power and pleasure, we can get them instead, not only in this world and in this human form, but in other worlds and in other forms hereafter. So not only in this world, this life, and in human form, but in other worlds and in other forms hereafter. Concentration upon any of the gross elements or the sense organs is said to bring us to the condition of disincarnate gods. Concentration upon the mind or the ego is said to make us one with the forces of nature and rulers of parts of the universe. If a Hindu speaks of heaven and hell, he does not mean the words in the accepted Christian sense. For to a Hindu, heaven and hell are both within Prakriti, within time, space, and causation. He believes in many planes of existence other than this earthly one, some infernally painful, some ecstatically pleasant. To these planes we may go for a while after death, impelled by the karmas we have accumulated here on earth. But we shall not remain in any of them eternally. Notice the distinction between the Judeo-Christian idea of heaven or hell, where you go and remain eternally. That is to say, outside time, space, and causation, outside the force of Prakriti. When the good or the bad karma, which earned them, is exhausted, we shall be reborn into mortal life, the only condition, according to Hindu belief, in which we are free to make the act of yoga, to unite ourselves with the Atma. So any comments from your own wisdom or experience? Any concern? Does this raise any concern for you? Or is there a question that it causes you to arise in your mind?
Hi, Brother Shankara, Samesh here.
Yes.
Brother Shankara, I mean, I think I know the answer, plus sometimes I feel I don't know the answer. How do I know I'm attached to something? Like, it says concentration without attachment or with non-attachment.
Is your question, how do you know you're attached to something?
Yes.
When you are attempting to contemplate, concentrate, or meditate, when you are practicing those skills, and this continues to arise in your mind, whatever it is that you just talked about as the object of its attachment, it arises in your mind, and it's very hard for you to set aside. It's very hard for you to ignore it. For example, many people have grandchildren. It's very difficult for them to, it's even more difficult than with it's even more difficult than with their own children, for them to say, Oh, I'm not attached to this child. If I left the body this moment, they would be fine. Or if they left the body this moment, I would not be able to control my grief. I want to see them. I want to be with them. I feel like they need me to nurture them. All of these thoughts arise around grandchildren. Now, I'm not saying having grandchildren is bad and wrong or anything of the kind. I'm simply saying it is one of the more powerful attachments that many people have, and very difficult for them to practice non-attachment or detachment. Simply understanding that the only reason I'm attached to them, the only reason I feel this way toward them is because they are the self in such a pure form that it's very appealing to me. It has nothing to do with their sweet little personalities or voices. And again, by saying it in this way, I'm not being sarcastic or scornful. They do have sweet little voices and personalities. But as Yajnavalkya pointed out, it is not for the sake of their sweet voices and their sweet personalities that we are attached to grandchildren. It is for the sake of the self. And there's no reason to be attached to the self in any way that we practice in human form. The self is something that we are and that they are. And so we simply are that, and they are that. So does that make sense, Samesh?
Yes, that opens up a little more than I had in mind. So thank you. And I think it's a question to keep pondering on. What am I attached to? So.
Well, the thing to do, according to the Swamis, Samesh, is not so much concentrate on what you're attached to, but concentrate on what it is that draws you to this spiritual effort. Look toward the light that has attracted your attention and focus more and more on that. And then slowly and slowly, all these other attachments take their proper place. You see why it is that you're drawn to them in any way, partly because they are that. They are the self. The comment was made early on that though there appear to be, at this point, 15 of us here, there is truly only one.
Yeah.
And so it is the self in each of you that has drawn you here, that you would want to participate in this. And that self is what is honored in saying, is there any wisdom or any experience that you would like to bring to the assembly, what seems to be an assemblage of 15 people? So thank you for the question, Somesh. And anything else from anyone at this point?
Brother
Brother
Shankara?
Shankara?
Yes, two voices. Who is
That's okay,
this?
go ahead. I'll come back later, Brother Shankara. This is Haima.
Yes,
This is
okay.
Martha. Thank you, Haima. I have devoted myself to karma yoga, but then I feel like I'm attached to my work. but but maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to not be attached to my work with karma yoga.
What Krishna would tell you is offer your attachment to him.
Mm-hmm.
Offer everything having to do with your work, your life, everything, without exception and without qualification or reservation. Say, Sri Krishna, it is you who is creating this attachment to my work. So it is thine and thine alone. I offer it to you. Please purify everything about me by allowing me to offer it all to you, and know that you are receiving it and accepting it. Therein lies the secret of karma yoga, of knowing, of having this sense of relationship, that I know that the Lord is accepting everything that I offer. And this only comes through some years of practice, where you begin to feel the correspondence. But boy, was that a good question, Martha. How do I know?
Well, when I'm meditating and then I think about something I associate with karma yoga, then I'm not sure if that's wrong.
No,
that's
of
okay.
course it's not wrong.
Okay.
Of course it's not wrong. Of course those thoughts will arise. What else would arise? Of course those thoughts will arise. So offer those thoughts, those feelings, those perceptions to the Divine Presence. Just say, Krishna, you say it in the Gita, you say it so clearly that you are the author of all of this. I am that which is doing this on your behalf as your servant, as your child, or as your friend, as Arjuna was. Whatever relationship seems most congenial to you. But of course those thoughts will arise. And there's nothing wrong with the thoughts. They are as natural as it appears that the sun rises and travels through the sky and sets. And yet we know that's not the truth. The sun does not move. It appears to move because the earth is turning. So it appears these thoughts are ours. These actions are ours. These attachments are ours. But that's just like clouds moving in front of the sun. It looks like the sun moves out from behind the clouds. In fact, the clouds move or dissolve. And so when we hold that thought in mind, then all of these things resolve themselves, and we're not imprisoned by our actions, our feelings, our thoughts, our perceptions, or our attachments. I'll just speak personally.
Brother Shankar,
I'm very
can you
attached
please repeat
to
the
this.
thought?
Hang on just a minute.
Okay.
I speaking personally, I'm very attached to this work. I love this work. I'm very attached to it. But I offer it every morning and every night to Sri Ramakrishna. Offer the attachment, and I say, when it's finished, you'll let me know. But in the meantime, why would I do a good job if I wasn't attached to what I'm doing here? Yes, I'm attached to it.
Thank you.
Now, Haima had something to say, and then I think it was either Amarpali or Krishnakali. I'm not sure which.
Amrapali.
Yeah, okay, let's hear from Haima first, and then you, Amarpali.
Namaste, Brother Shankara. I was commenting on what you said about children and grandchildren. They are the best litmus test for our attachment theory. Really, really, we can still love them, but we don't have to be attached to them. If they don't come, that's okay. If they come, that's okay. I got to that stage after years of meditation, after contemplating, concentrating, and meditation. When it starts ripening, that detachment automatically comes. It really comes. I think the prodigal son father is a great example. He let his son go, and when he came back with nothing, he welcomed him wholeheartedly. That
Yes.
is the best example for all of us. And
Yes.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing up the prodigal son parable. That is exactly it.
It's a great story to learn.
Oh, it is.
Thank you.
It is perfect.
Wonderful.
Amarpali, what did you have?
Thank you.
Yeah, but with the prodigal son, if I'm not mistaken, they teach it to you. Some children teach it to you that, you cry for their attention or you want them to spend more time. And some children teach it to you, okay, you better accept if you don't want to feel bad. And sometimes you have to learn on your own. It's the loving children that you have to learn on your own that, okay,
Well,
don't get too attached.
What the story of the prodigal child tells us is that the father never stopped loving the child and never judged him for his actions. He was not attached to any particular way of being with that son. He was perfectly non-attached to any particular way of being with that son.
No, the point I'm making is for a marriage, ones that get divorced, you have to learn to accept. And some of them which are happy marriages, it takes longer to learn because you have it there, everything is going good. So it takes longer to learn. And sometimes with the divorce, it's abrupt and short, then you have to learn. That's the point I was making. I mean, both are their own learning curve. But the question I wanted, Brother Shankara, is I was using the restroom. I missed that part where you said that keep that thought in your mind to dissolve. Was it the point of the attachment you were saying that give it all to
Yes,
Lord Krishna?
keep
Is that the same point or is something more?
just offer it all to the divine. Keep that thought in mind, that it is all thine, O Lord. It is
Thank you.
all thine. All of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Anything else from anyone? Okay. We are free to make the act of yoga, to unite ourselves with the Atman. The desire for heaven is therefore an infinitely lower. The desire for heaven is therefore an infinitely lower ambition than the desire for liberation. All Hindu religious and all Hindu religious life,
literature.
Thank you. All Hindu religious literature makes a clear distinction between the two. When Sri Krishna is reproving Arjuna for his preoccupation with the problems of the phenomenal world, he speaks of the man who merely hopes for heaven. When Sri Krishna is reproving Arjuna for his preoccupation with the problems of the phenomenal world, in other words, the problems that causes Arjuna to throw down his weapons and say, I will not fight. Sri Krishna speaks of the man who merely hopes for heaven. Note also Emerson's poem, Brahma. Will someone read that aloud? Balakrishna, would you read that aloud, please?
Yes, sir. The strong gods pine for my abode and find in vain the sacred self. But thou, meek lover of the good, find me and turn thy back on heaven.
Okay, read it again, please.
The strong gods pine for my abode, find in vain the sacred seven, but thou, meek lover of the good, find me and turn thy back on heaven.
Yes, the sacred seven are the seven pillars of the universe, the seven Sapta Rishis that have ascended to a heavenly abode and are rulers of the parts and aspects of the universe, the Sapta Rishis. That's the sacred seven that he's speaking about. But thou, meek lover of the good, find me and turn thy back on heaven. What is the differentiation he's making? The seeker after the good rather than the pleasant. Lover of the good rather than the pleasant. Heaven is pleasant. Okay. The strong gods are in fact not strong at all. They are in bondage to Prakriti, chained to the cosmos by their desire for power. I'll read that again. This is the disincarnate gods that are talked about in Patanjali's Sutra, the 19th Sutra. The strong gods are in fact not strong at all. They are in bondage to Prakriti, chained to the cosmos by their desire for power. They are among those who have failed to concentrate with non-attachment. In the Katha Upanishad, Yama, the god of death, admits this frankly to Nachiketa. And this is one of the most touching passages in the Katha Upanishad. Well, I know that earthly treasures lasts but the morrow. For did not I myself, wishing to be king of death, make sacrifice with fire? But the sacrifice was a fleeting thing, performed with fleeting objects, and small is my reward, seeing that only for a moment will my reign endure. Isn't that an amazing passage? Yama, the god of death, says, I wanted this. I got it. I am powerful beyond any idea of human beings. I can snatch you up at any moment. And yet, he says, it will endure but for a moment. Any comments or questions about all of that?
Well, actually, two things that, of course, this one, Yama congratulates him for Nastikata because he refused everything, all the worldly pleasures and everything. In that term, he says this. But the other one, the Arjuna and Krishna, actually, one of the Swami really explains that, I liked it. That at least I wanted to bring it up. Because, see, the cause that for the war, Arjuna has nothing to do with it. It is only Duryodhana started the cause. So in order to respond to the cause, Arjuna has to follow dharma. Because if it is dharma, he has to fight. But he puts his, that is God's will. But he puts his own mind into it because of the attachment of the guru and the grandfather. He thinks twice and he says, I don't want to fight.
Yeah, I can't kill Drona, my teacher.
Exactly. So this is where he says, don't put your thought into it. Just follow the dharma, the God's will.
Well, this is to obey the Atman.
Yes.
But that can only be done with non-attachment.
Yes.
Or by surrendering even the attachment to the divine.
Yes.
Thank you, Balaji.
The reason I brought this was is every time I'm in a bind, this is the one that comes to my mind. I think about it. What is the right I have to do?
Yes. And so each one of us, as an embodied human being, knows that for whatever reason in past lives, we have missed the goal. We remained attached to that which brought us back to human form. But here we are, 15 of us, on a Saturday afternoon, exploring with one of the most powerful swamis that's ever taught in the United States, exploring with Swami Prabhavananda what it means to be free of the attachment that will bring us back again. To go on with what the Swami says, Yama knows that one day he will have to leave his kingdom and be reborn as a man. Then and only then he will have another opportunity to turn his back on heaven and seek the union with the Atman, which is the only true immortality. It looks to me like it's 12:53. Is that correct? I didn't bring my clock in here.
Yes, Shankaraji.
Okay, so we have time to read Sutra 20. The concentration. Well, first, is there anything at all, anything that remains from our reading and discussion of Sutra 19? Anything from anyone? Okay. The concentration of the true spiritual aspirant is attained through faith, energy, recollectedness, absorption, and illumination. Now, when he says things like the true aspirant, this isn't a value judgment. It's just an accurate observation. It's not saying if you don't do these things, that you're somehow bad. It simply means that you're still married to, addicted to some form of ignorance that has continued to entrance you and will keep you returning to human form. You won't attain liberation. But he says, the concentration of the true spiritual aspirant is attained through faith, energy, recollectedness, absorption, and illumination. Now let's look at what how the Swami defines each one of these 5 determinants of who is a true aspirant. Faith is often used by agnostics as a term of abuse. That is to say, it is taken to refer to the blind credulity. It is taken to refer to the blind credulity which accepts all kinds of dogmas and creeds without question, repeating parrot-like what it has been taught and closing its ears to doubt and reason. Such faith should certainly be attacked. It is compounded of laziness, obstinacy, ignorance, and fear. In other words, it is tamasic. This is why the second word in the sutra, the second definition, is energy. Rajas is what overcomes tamas. So true faith will not be tamasic because it is accompanied by the energy that will question, that will open its ears to doubt and reason. That blind credulity kind of faith should certainly be attacked. It is compounded of laziness, obstinacy, ignorance, and fear. Because it is rigid and unyielding, it can quite easily be shaken and altogether destroyed. And you hear people say, oh, because of the things that are going on in the world, I have lost my faith. What? Those things that come and go in the world, they've been coming and going for time immemorial. What does that have to do with your faith? Your faith is in something beyond all of that. I can't tell you how many times I've had people say to me, oh, this business that's going on, such and such. It is truly, I've lost my faith. Well, such faith isn't faith at all. It's just as the Swami said, it's rigid and unyielding adherence to the idea that the world must be this way, otherwise I cannot have faith. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. It's 12:59. Any final comment, any final wisdom or expression of your own experience? Any concern or question that this brings up?
Brother Shankara,
Yes.
Liam, yeah, I just had one. Someone said to me recently on the topic of faith that faith and belief aren't necessarily the same thing. You could have faith without necessarily like having a belief is more could be more attached to the dualities of how certain events are going and being kind of dealing riding those fluctuations, whereas faith is like kind of a deeper knowing, because there are times where I'll believe something's going wrong, but something inside me says it's going to be okay, and even though my beliefs are telling me otherwise, they're not necessarily the same thing.
Very well said, Liam. Indeed, faith and belief are different. Of course, all of us believe that it's better to be peaceful than warlike. But there are times when it's necessary to be warlike, as Balakrishna brought up, in the Gita. There's reason to be warlike. But that doesn't mean we don't have faith in the nature of peace as it exists within us, which is the only true source of peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I can be peaceful even though the world is necessarily warlike. Anything else? Thank you, Liam.
I have a comment, Brother Shankara. This is Haima again. Sorry
Yes,
to take
Haima.
too much time. When good things happen, people take the credit for their self. When bad things happen, they think the external God has to do something. See, we create our misery and our happiness. All the wars and all these are created by humans. Everything, good and bad. When good things happen, we take the credit for that. Oh, I did it. It's in general, I'm just speaking, not particular person or anything. And when bad things happen, oh, God didn't fix it, so I lost my faith. What is God doing? Where is he? This is all happening. This is how they reflect on the current situations, or, like you said, these wars have been going on for generations, thousands of years it's been going on. Our history is witnessing us. It's witnessing, yes. We are witnessing by reading all these things. It has been going on. Evil, good, all these things existed all along throughout our lives. So
yeah, and from time immemorial, yes.
Exactly. And it's not going to go away. It's just we have to take responsibility personally. That's what I want.
I want to say something here from a personal experience.
Yes.
So something good happens, like my son does something good. I'm very proud of that. Something bad happens, my first thought, and I've realized it many times, the first thought goes to, oh, his mom didn't do it right.
You didn't take the credit,
oh,
right?
Sumesh.
I noticed it so many times. I'm like, what?
That's a good one. That's a great one.
how sweetly truthful that is. Yes. Yes.
Very true. Very true.
Thank you for bringing that up, dear. Yes.
The only thing is, his wife must be thinking the same way.
My wife's? Yeah. Oh my God.
Daddy didn't do his job.
Oh, yeah.
Good one.
That's where we conflict.
Yep. But it's always good to remember what Swami Vivekananda said in his Song of the Sannyasin. Praise or praised, blame or blamed are one. praise or praised, blame or blamed are one. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. Oh, dearly beloved, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless delusion to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So until tomorrow morning, for those of you who decide to join us at 11 a.m., the topic is consciousness is not plural. What then are you? So if you think that's interesting to think and talk about, join us tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. right here. Talk with you all later.
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.